Councillor Perruzza.
Thank you, Speaker. We have a situation, and I don't need to go through the history with any of you. We have a situation where, for what, three and a half years now, we've basically allowed this outfit called Uber to come in here, and they've had an opportunity to basically roll out about 20,000 people out on the street, right? Unregulated. They got no overhead. Yes, they can provide some rates cheaper, right? But every 4 months there's turnover. Nobody can make a living with Uber other than Uber. It seems like. That's what we've been essentially told with by our staff. So what is Uber doing in the interim? Over the last 3.5 years? They're punching the lights out of the industry that we basically developed rules for. We created a set of rules. Now, some of us may not like the rules. Get a license, you rent the license, you can own a car, you can have a brokerage, you can do a whole bunch of, there's middlemen and all the rest of it. We don't like it. And yes, at the end of the day, we would like to see cabs operating in a little bit better. Or doing a little bit better. But we created the rules. Uber has decided that they're going to be civilly disobedient. They said, your rules don't apply to us. If you think there's a right time, or a bad time, or a more perfect time, you're absolutely wrong. And I don't believe any lawyer anywhere, and I respect the advice that we got from our folks, but any lawyer anywhere worth their salt will tell you that there's a perfect time where you can win. I can't win today, but I can win another day. So you created these rules. These folks played by your rules. They went out, they got mortgages, they did whatever, they relied on their license, they rely on their livelihood. So for 3.5 years, they have been getting their lights punched out. They're in a fight they can't win. We also know that we're in a fight that's going to be a long, long fight for us to win. If we don't take the fight, they're saying to us, please, we need you in the fight with us. We can't do it ourselves. We played by your rules. They're not playing by your rules. They're asking us to jump into that fight. What we're going to say to them is, well, you know what? We believe Uber is a colossus. Great big hulking colossus. We're not in any condition to fight Uber. They're going to punch our lights out too. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go away, train for a while. I'm going to get physically fit, right? And then when I'm ready and all built up, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to join the fight with you. Well, you know what? It might be too late. There might not be anything left to fight for at that point. There is no right time. We either believe we have the ability to regulate the cab industry and how people take rides across the city and who they hire to take those rides and how they do that, or we don't. Pure and simple. The rest is semantics. Let the lawyers work out the semantics. We need to get into the fight because we need to believe that we are the authority. Pure and simple. We need to reinforce that all of the time. Because if we don't, then there's no fight for us to have. There is no more perfect time. I believe they're saying to us, we're looking to you. You created the rules. Our livelihood's at stake. We played by the rules. They're not playing by the rules. You're doing nothing about it. You're saying, I'm going to go off and train a little more. And I'll come back and fight another day. I think we owe it to them And we owe it to ourselves to get into this fight right now.
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza. Please, members of the public, no applauding. Thank you. Councillor McConnell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, first of all, I think that we need to recognize who Council is fighting for, and what this motion does or doesn't do for that fight. And I'm going to support the motion because I think that the motion moves us forward on solidifying us around the fight. I want to tell you who I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the drivers who live in St. Jamestown, who live in Regent Park, and who are having trouble feeding their children. Those children go to school with my grandson. I see them day after day after day. I see the hours that they work. I get into their cabs. I see the service that they give. I see the families at home worrying about how they're going to make ends meet. And I think we all recognize, as Councillor Wong Tam so aptly put, that you can't live on $40 a day. It's not possible. And so it is true that a colossus came to town, or a monster, or however we describe it. And there is true also that times move on, and that there is an issue around technology that I believe that our taxi drivers are just as apt to be able to use. But at the end of the day, our name is Councillor, and we have to make a decision here as to how we counsel. How do we make sure that as a government we protect the people who are licensed by us, who drive for us, who live in our neighborhoods, and who are our neighbors? And I believe the rhetoric around here has been pretty awful. And I believe that the best way for us to move forward is to fight it in the courts with the illegal activity that's going on, and to get ready, if necessary, for a bigger fight at the main court. But not to move forward and trip over our feet for the second time, or their lives are over. So from my perspective, I want to fight for my neighbors, for my constituents, for our people who came and have put 20, 25 years into the service of moving people around this city. But I don't want to trip them up by suggesting to them that they go down a blind alley. And so I think that we have the best legal strategy, that we have the best motion on council, and that we have the best opportunity for council to be united in fighting for all of these taxi drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it for the speakers. Councillor Palacio, as Chair of Licensing, will be the last speaker. So is that it for the speakers? Okay, last speaker, Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wholeheartedly support the recommendations of the Licensing Standards Committee, and having heard during the in-camera session this morning from the City Solicitor, and after having a very healthy discussion in terms of legalities, I will support the friendly amendment to the recommendations of the Licensing Standards Committee made by Mayor Tory. As Chair of the Licensing Standards Committee, I do understand, I fully understand how people feel. And I'm very mindful that how we have to work together as council to work with all the stakeholders, hopefully to bring a resolution that's going to make sense, and it will hopefully appease everyone. And I have done that by taking the high road, by not compromising the integrity of the process of what we are dealing with, because I think that's extremely important to be very mindful as we move forward to do the right thing. I do understand the level of frustration from the taxi industry, how angry they are, and how emotional they are. This is an issue that's been affecting them for too long. It's an industry that's suffering, where we have more than 15,000 families that they depend on it. So the question is, why are we here? The answer is very simple. Because we have UberX that continues to break the law. Let's not forget that City Council, in October the 2nd of last year, in good faith, asked Uber Canada to cease and desist the operations until city staff bring forward a regulatory framework on the ground transportation network. And I'm pushing at this point for a report to come forward, not in April, hopefully in March, because that's how urgent the whole thing is. And I'm sure that we're going to have a very healthy debate on that. We are paying close attention to what's happening to everyone. City laws were enacted to be adhered by everyone without any exemption. And City Council and our city staff has the responsibility to uphold our bylaws to the highest degree in terms of compliance. And it leaves a lot to be desired that not much has transpired during the last few months. And that's where the frustration comes in. If we don't do that, I think we'll be sending the wrong message and set, I dare to say, a dangerous precedent in terms of enforcement, somehow that will be seen as a special treatment to one group, and that will be definitely wrong. But what I feel today, I think that collectively, if we send a very strong message to Uber that we will not tolerate what's happening there, and we're going to make sure that injunction is going to be won. And that's why we should send, hopefully, collectively, one strong message to them. Otherwise, that would be a challenge, a direct challenge to our democratic system and to our democratic institution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay. We have the two amendments. The one amendment. 1A, it's on the screen. All in favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, thank you. Councillor Perruzza, please.
The amendment carries 39-3.
1B. Recorded vote.
Councillor Mallow, please, and Councillor McMahon. Thank you.
The amendment carries 41 to 1.